So thank you for being here today, Jalen.
Thank you, Jasper.
It was a while since interviewed New Pacific Metals. Last time we were actually on site at Carangas in Bolivia and interviewing, and now there's been quite a lot of changes, and you're now the CEO. You were previously the CFO. So could you tell us about yourself and tell us a little bit about your career and how you came to be the CEO of New Pacific?
Sure, thanks, Jasper. I actually came from an accounting background. I've been a chartered professional accountant in Canada for 20 years. I joined the Silver Corp New Pacific Group in the year 2009, so about 15 years ago, 16 years ago, as controller for the group. And in 2015, I was appointed as CFO for New Pacific. So I have been with the core group of the management team and executive team with New Pacific and see through our operations and projects development in Bolivia since 2017. And as you know, the latest change of my career is I've been appointed as CEO for the company since April this year. And the story goes from there.
How often are you in Bolivia and on site?
Oh, actually, since I took over as CEO, I spent over 75% of my time in Bolivia, working closely with my local team. As personally, I'm a firm believer of saying that the general has to be on the front line with the soldiers to win the battle.
So you have an office in La Paz, and then your assets you have Silver Sand, and then you have Carangas. Obviously, I have also Silver Strike, but we won't focus on that in this interview. How far away are you from the projects?
Yes, we actually have 3 offices here in Bolivia. The main one's in La Paz. That's our regional head office located. We also have an office in Potosi, which that office governs our operations for Silver Sand project. And another office in Oruro. That office governs the operations for our Carangas project. I visit both offices and the site from time to time whenever it's needed, because at the moment we're focusing on pushing the permitting objectives for both projects, and especially on community works and those things. Believe it or not, most of these activities actually happens in La Paz. That's why most of my time was actually based here in La Paz. But I would imagine when the progress moves on, I'll just relocate myself wherever is the most needed. So,
could you also tell us more about your in-country team and how many do you have in site on Bolivia, and who are the core people that helps you with permitting and community engagement and you're making sure everything works in country?
Right. We have a relatively small team, but very competent team here in Bolivia. About 30 people in total, led by our country manager, our VP Bolivia operations. His name is Mr. Yanni Romero. He's a very competent manager here. Works
Is
very
he Bolivian?
closely. Yeah, he's Bolivian. All of our Bolivian teams are Bolivian, other than myself. Yeah. Yanni is a very competent guy, works with me on a daily basis, very closely to each other. We have 2 CSR teams, as I said, one for Potosi, one for Oruro. Both CSR teams oversees all the operations and permitting and community works at the moment for our Silver Sand and the Carangas projects, respectively. Then in La Paz office, we also have a corporate communication team. Their main job is to facilitate government relations and other social media or media coordinations in Bolivia. And at the moment, we also maintain a small technical team. They oversees all the advanced studies and other technical aspects of the permitting and also the upcoming drilling campaign as well. So as I'm saying, we maintain a relatively small team here, but everyone's very competent. I'm quite happy with what we have here in Bolivia.
Excellent. Okay, and could you summarize this year for New Pacific?
Yeah, I think the main tune for our company this year is change. I mean, starting from the executive team change. I mean, I was appointed as CEO. There is some change here. Then followed my appointment, we also changed our strategies towards our permitting. And we changed the ways we're doing things. We changed our roadmaps and we changed our culture. Now everybody's more working closely and more dedicated to making things happen. And the result is very positive. I think we can touch base more on that down the road. And then finally, there is also the change in Bolivia as a country. The new president, Mr. Rodrigo Paz, was anointed early this month. And we see the whole political shiftment from left-wing dominated Mas party ruling for the past 20 years to now a more center to right-wing party and the Congress and the Senate. So the major scene in 2025, I would say, is change.
Perfect. We'll get more into that in a minute. But first of all, let's talk about financing. You raised 40 million Canadian. Could you have some color on who took part in that financing?
First of all, it's a very successful financing deal that we closed. Obviously, our long-term partner and a strategic partner and a big shareholder, Silver Corp Metals Inc. and Pan American Silver Corp, they both participated on the pro rata basis. So Silver Corp maintained its 27% interest in our company, and Pan American Silver maintained 11% ownership in our company. So besides the two big shareholders, the rest of the participants, about 90% of them are institutional investors. Then the rest 10% is our retail investors.
So what's the current cash position, and also what's the expected G&A burn rate?
The current cash positions, we're looking at about $45 million on hand. So that's a lot of money, sufficient for us to carry out our set plans at least for the next 2 to 3 years. Just G&A wise, the burn rate isn't that high. We're talking about roughly 450,000 on a monthly basis.
If you look at your budget for next year, how much do you expect to spend in total next year between G&A and also exploration and the product development expenditures and other expenditures in Bolivia?
Right. So besides the regular G&A burn rate, next year we actually plan to increase our spending in Bolivia. It'll be mainly coming from these fronts. The first thing is I want to spend more on community engagement. That ties to our immediate plan on restoring the community relationships, signing agreements with them to facilitate our permitting process. Then following that, we'll spend more on the technical works that is relevant to the permitting for both projects, namely some geotechnical drillings, hydrogeological drillings, environmental, social, economic baseline studies, and both will lead to feasibility studies for both projects as well in the second half of the year if everything goes well. Right. Then on top of that, the main spending next year will be on Carangas drilling program. We're planning for a 30,000 meter infill drilling program at Carangas. So the total cost on that program alone, we're roughly looking at $7 million just on that drilling program.
Excellent. So all in all, how much do you expect to spend in total next year, ballpark?
Ballpark, let's say between 15 to 20 million. Obviously, I'd like to spend more on that. That just means, we make good progress with the community side, right? Yeah.
Perfect. That's USD now, just to make sure the currency is right.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so let's move to Silver Sand, which is still your flagship project, I would say. So could you just briefly describe the Silver Sand mining project? What's the mine type, resource inventory, grades, production, mine life, capex, MPV, all cost structure?
Yeah, Silver Sand is a big open pit operation that produce in silver dorés through tank leaching process. The overall resource that was defined at the moment is it's roughly about 175 million ounces of silver in that project. And once we start production, we're looking at on average likely 12 million ounces of silver produced on an annual basis, and the mine life is approximately 13 years. All-in sustaining cost on that project relatively low. We're looking at $10.70 per ounce of silver for all-in sustaining capital. And initial capex, based on our PFS, it was estimated at $358 million. And an MPV, after-tax MPV, $740 million, but that was based on the assumption of silver price only at $24 per ounce. So if we're like inputting with today's spot price, that MPV will become close to 1.5 billion.
And how long is the construction period of silver sand?
Yeah, we expect another 2 to 3 years of construction once we get to there.
2 to 3 years. That's a big difference. Do you include commissioning then also, and the ramp up, or?
Yes, well, 2 to 3 years really. We give it a bit of a contingency there, right? But I would expect if it goes to the third year, part of that would be just pre-commercial production. That's also included some like pre-production activities there.
And so now, if we exclude permitting, from a technical perspective, what are the next steps to advance silver sand?
Not much, to be honest. It's just some like additional geotechnical and hydrogeological drilling works to get between the PFS and the feasibility studies. Because for Silvercorp, no more exploration or infill drilling is needed on that project. The project's resource is pretty well defined at this point, right? We're just moving on to the engineering side of the project.
So it's really detailed engineering, some more
Exactly.
drilling, but it's okay, yeah, so it's almost at construction ready status. So essentially, will you conduct a feasibility study, or is that not necessary? How are you thinking about that in the future?
Yes, the feasibility study is in our plan at the moment, right? But we'll evaluate more carefully and closely when we get to there, likely in the second half of 2026. But at least some gap work in the technical aspect needs to be performed, even if we decided to not go with the feasibility study. But as things stands, it's more likely that we will go for a feasibility study.
Okay, that's good to know. So now, could you do the same for Carangas? Briefly describe the Carangas mining project as it is per the PA.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Carangas is another open pit, large operation with polymetallic project that mainly produces lead concentrates and zinc concentrates, with silver in the mainly in the lead concentrates through the flotation milling process. It is different than silver sand. Silver sand is a silver-only project. Carangas at the top level, it's mainly silver, but there is a big potential of the deep zone gold resource there. We're talking about close to 1.3 million ounce of gold deep down there in the project. With our PEA design that released last year, the PEA was just focused on the starter pit, which is just the shallow level silver zone. So with that design, we're looking at about total 131 million ounce of silver resource and close to 800,000 pounds of lead and zinc combined. And production on that, we're looking to produce close to 6.6 million ounces of silver on an annual basis at a very low all-in sustaining cost, $7.60 per ounce of silver. But of course, that's net of byproduct credits from lead and zinc sales. CapEx-wise, it's close to silver sand. It's at 300 million US dollars, or it could be a bit more than that, than those at the current estimation. MPV after tax, again, $500 million MPV, after tax MPV, at $24 silver price. Again, if we're using the current spot price, that would become a 1 billion project.
Fantastic. And how long is the construction period here?
Very similar to silver sand. We give it another estimation around 2 to 3 years.
And so then, from a technical perspective, what are the next steps to advance Carangas, and how much will you do of that next year?
Yeah, besides the same technical requirements as silver sand in terms of geotechnical, hydrogeological drillings and those things to fill the gap between the PEA to PFS, we're also going to do more exploration drilling at Carangas, like infill exploration drilling. As I mentioned, in next year, 2026, we already programmed a 33,000 meter drilling program throughout the year.
So the 33,000 meters, could you break it down? How much of that is regional drilling? How much is in the Carangas deposit? And how much of that is classified as infill?
Yeah, so for that 33,000 meters drilling, 18,000 meters was designed to infill the upper level silver zone with a clear goal to try to upgrade our silver resources for at least, we want to convert at least 30% of the existing resource into the measured category through that infill drilling. Then we have 13,000 meters of drilling designed to test the deep zone gold resource. The goal, obviously, is trying to define more gold resource in the deep zone. Then last but not least, we also designated a 1,600 meters of drilling to test 2 previously identified IP anomalies in the area, hoping to find some new discoveries there.
Okay, so 1,600 meters, that's planned for the regional targets. And what else besides the IP anomalies do you have to back up those that there could be another breccia pipes here?
Yeah, we previously have 6 IP anomalies identified. We've drilled 1, so 5. We've drilled 1 and we're successfully to identify the Carangas project. Right. The rest of the 5, we're going to test them gradually, as I'm saying, starting with 2 of them in 2026. Then we see what the results mean to us, and then we will decide to whether we want to move on with more or not. But the current strategic focus, obviously, is still trying to develop the existing Carangas project as it is, because it's already a world-class project as is.
Perfect. So let's move into permitting and local community relations, which is, to be honest, the by far most important part of the investment case for New Pacific at this point in time. So could you explain the election results from this fall, and essentially how will this impact you and permitting and also I guess community relations, if at all?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Bolivia, they just finished their general election this fall with 2 rounds. The first round in August, which elected the Congress and the Senate, and the second round in November, which elected the president, which is Mr. Rodrigo Paz. So as I'm saying, this round of election results saw a huge political movement from a left-wing dominated regime for the past 20 years to a more center to right-wing new government. Well, it's evidenced by the president himself, Mr. Paz Rodriguez. His campaign slogan, the most famous one, is capitalism for everyone. That's his very famous campaign slogan during his presidential campaign. Then it's also evidenced by the composition in the new Congress and the Senate. I mean, during the past 20 years, in both Congress and the Senate, Ma's party alone, which is the extreme left-wing party that rules the regime, their party alone owns over 50% of the seats in both Congress and Senate, which just means all of their bills gets passed easily. Right, but in this new government, within the new Congress and the Senate, the whole left-wing party representation combined is less than 10% of the seats in both Congress and the Senate. That's what it means. It's a huge political movement from the left-wing dominated regime to a more center to right-wing new government. I mean, the reason behind it, to myself, is quite obvious, because Bolivia as a country is suffering from severe economic crisis in the past couple of years. The driven factor of that is the shortage of US dollar reserves for the country. So put it in simple words, the country are out of money. And that led to high inflation rates in the country and the scarce of essential supplies, especially in gas and the diesels. So Bolivian people are unhappy with that. They demand a change. And the new government promised to bring the change to them. Both the president himself and his Minister of Finance openly citing to bring foreign investments to the country as one of the solutions to their economic problem. So at a very high macro level, that's very encouraging to us. We think at macro level, the country's economic agenda aligns with our company's project permitting agenda, because we are front runners in the mining sector in Bolivia. We already defined our 2 projects here, done all the explorations, done all the necessary technical study works and those things. All we need is to get the 2 mines permitted for construction. And once that has been done, we have 2 low-hanging fruits there for them to grab. the initial capex injection combined almost over 700 million US dollars. That's a significant amount of money injection into the country to help them to restore their economy. So overall, the political future looks very bright.
So when we last spoke 2 years ago on Union Pacific, it said the core focus was to obtain a land lease agreement with a local community at Silver Sand. Could you explain, that is still the core focus, what are the difficulties and how are you addressing them?
Yeah, obviously what's happened in the past couple of years at Silver Sand, the main issue there was illegal mining. And with illegal miners there and illegal mining activities went on our project, nothing gets done. Nothing can be moved forward. Community relationships was deteriorating because they aren't happy with the company not being able to move forward the project, right? But at the company side, we also aren't happy that we're not getting much help from the community to help us battling the illegal miners. So to cut it short, when illegal mining activities happens on any mining project, nothing good will happen. Your project goes nowhere. So that's also why, since I took over as CEO early this year, my first focused objective was on stopping the illegal mining activities. Don't get me wrong, that has always been our objectives for the past 2 years, but the efforts we're trying this year is very different than in the past. That's what I mean by saying change at the beginning of our conversation. So in the past, we're too passive on just relying on the legal proceedings to go against these illegal miners. But that has been proved to be less efficient and a less effective way of handling such situations in Bolivia. So what's different this year is we start to expand the scope of battling illegal miners. We want to put pressure from all angles on them. Right? We're starting with seeking help from other government agencies and branches, especially in the judicial branch, which they issued an empower for us to protect our project from any illegal mining cases. And also, we tried to forge alliance with other regional stakeholders, the good miners, the legal miners in the region that are not encroach on our project, right? Good regional miners, good cooperatives in the region. And through that, we forged an alliance with them, and they also put pressures on those illegal mining activities for us. And the last method we used is to mobilize and encourage the local community members that are pro our project to stand up and face these illegal miners directly and provide us with support. So in short, with all these combined efforts, we are successful. I mean, we stopped the illegal mining activities since July 1st this year. There has been no illegal mining activities since then. And we also were able to regain access to our project since then. And we established a temporary camp on the site and maintain a small security force there on a 24/7 basis. So with the illegal mining issues resolved for now, we also immediately restarted our socialization program with local communities. The goal is trying to restore their confidence in our project and just trying to grab their support and give them a vision, the same vision as us, to use this project as a vessel to achieve huge benefits and life-changing moments for their families down the road. So that has been the focus since July this year. And it has been very successful so far, as I can say.
What are the next steps in terms of community engagement at Silver Sand? And do you have any rough timelines on, when possibly could, expect to get the land lease agreement?
Yes, as I'm saying, the current focus on our end is the socialization and negotiation with all 5 impacted communities in the project area. Our internal timeline is to complete the socialization and also sign framework agreements with each single one of those communities within the next 6 months period. That's our internal timeline on that.
And how many are we talking about here in terms of families, or do you just deal with individuals, or is there a vote? Do you deal with individuals, or has sort of more than 50% of the community be in favor? Or
Yeah, so within the 5 communities that I'm talking about, each community compose about 30 to 50 families. That's what we're talking about here. For obviously, we're not signing agreements with individual families. The agreements will be signed at community levels, and the general their bylaw generally saying like such projects and agreements needs just 51% of the approval from the community. But obviously, our internal goal is to grab as much support as we need. Our internal goal is to grab over 90% of the support in the communities. Because let's be honest, a few people, there will always be a few people against anything, right? But to facilitate a mining projects like this, if you have close to 50% of the people in certain communities that are against you, it will still be very hard to move forward, right? So our goal is to grab as much as possible. And I'm optimistic of achieving that with the methods that we implemented, because our method is very down to the ground. We're doing family-to-family socialization with them, right? Just to pave the way to the large community meetings and for the community agreements. And besides that, there obviously will be individual agreements signed with families that are directly impacted through the resettlement plan. So that's part of the important things to notice. Yeah.
And the resettlement plan, the compensation plan, is that a requirement to get a community agreement, or I mean, how are those connected?
Yeah, it will be part of the package, and quite honestly, it will be the most lucrative part for the local communities. Especially at least for the 2 directly impacted communities, Machicamaca and the Del Fuerte communities, because one is our pit is on one of these communities, and the other one, our designed plant facilities, tailing facilities are on the other community. So that being said, the existing community has to be resettled somewhere else. Which meaning we're building a new town for them, and we're paying compensations to their existing land and houses, so on and so. That will all be part of the framework agreement.
A small portion of silver sand is held by the state-owned mining company COMIBOL. Could you even give an update on the progress to convert that into an MPC?
Yeah, a small portion, about 10% of our defined resource resides in this MPC land. The status on that is the existing MPC is within COMIBOL's hands. It's up for them to submit to the new government through the new Minister of Mining for their approval. Then after that, it will be submitted to the National Assembly, which is the Congress and the Senate, for approval. So with our efforts to work closely with the new government on getting other permits, for example, AMCs and EIAs, which is environmental licenses, the MPC really is just a part of the package. So I don't see MPC as a very unique or separate project that we have to take on with the government. In other words, if the government approves our AMC and environmental license, there's no reason they don't approve this MPC agreement. So that would be all part of the package.
And the permitting process to convert this into an received, it is an AMC, but you need to approve it for mining. Is that correct?
Right. It's a bit different for 2 of our projects. For silver sand, we don't need an AMC anymore. We already have our AMCs in place. So all we need is an environmental license, which is aka the EIA process here in Bolivia. Once we got that EIA process completed, by the way, the technical and administrative aspects of that EIA process, we expect it to be roughly another 18 to 24 months. But unfortunately, there's no previous reference we can take because the country haven't granted any in the past 20 years. Right. But that being said, with the new government's support, we could expect there can be some the process can be expedited.
Does that process start after the land lease agreement is obtained?
Yes, we want to build the foundation first with the community. We get their blessing first, then we move on with the EIA process. Otherwise, without the community's blessing, I mean, even if we start the process now, they can always stop it at any time. And any of our efforts put into the EIA process will get wasted because based on the current mining law and environmental law, once the process started, you only have 18 months or so to complete it. And if you can't complete it within that time frame, everything is forfeited. You have to start all over from square one again. So
with that, now let's move over to Carangas. And I will ask you the same question. How is it going to obtain... how are the local communities at Carangas, and how is it going with obtaining a land lease agreement with them?
Yeah, for Carangas, we're actually off a much better start with local communities. Actually, as a matter of fact, we already obtained the community's support to develop our projects. The community held their annual assembly meeting in this August 31st. 2025. And during that meeting, they thoroughly discussed our projects. And in the end, the whole community voted in favor of the development and advancement of our project. So based on that, we're actually currently negotiating the long-term framework agreement with the Carangas community. And internally, we hope to have this agreement signed with the Carangas community by the end of this year. I mean, by the end of 2025. So we're off a much better start with Carangas on the community side. But again, that's the main reason is because there was no illegal mining activities happening at Carangas. So if we can get it done within this year, then the next step obviously is move on to the technical and administrative aspects of the permitting. Now, the difference between Carangas and Silver Sand is for Carangas, before we can apply for the environmental license, which is the EIA, we still need to convert our existing exploration license into a mining license, which is AMC first. And we're currently in the process of doing that. And the timeline on that is we internally expect to have the AMC completed and granted to us by next year, mid-2026. And immediately after we receive the AMC, we will start the EIA process to apply for the environmental license. And again,
is the timeline still 18 to 2 years?
Yeah, exactly, the same process. So we estimate another 18 to 24 months to get it done. But as I'm saying, with the new government support, who knows? This whole process can be expedited to some degree.
So with that, which project do you think will get built first?
Actually, that's a tough question to answer because internally, we are pushing simultaneously on the permitting for both projects, both Silver Sand and Carangas. We dedicate equal financial and human resource to both projects. And as you can see, the timeline for both projects to get permitted is actually aligns with each other. So if everything goes well, ideally, we would see at the end of 2027 or early 2028 as the point of we get both projects permitted and start construction.
Unless you get a very good offer, is it your intention to build and develop these projects on your own?
Absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely our intention to build both projects internally. But honestly speaking, we're still far away from that stage. We got to get down to the ground. At the moment is to focus on getting both projects permitted. That we have 100% no doubt on that. As I just explained, we are pushing both projects permitting, right? Let's say if we are truly blessed, we get both projects permitted around the same time or so, then at that time, we need to seriously assess the situation again to see whether do we have enough financial resource, whether do we have enough human resource to actually construct and develop both projects on our own. But at that point, a lot of, I would imagine, a lot of strategic windows would open to us. Then we go from there. But internally, it is our goal to build both mines by ourselves.
And could you summarize the catalysts for the coming year?
Yeah, so basically for 2026, let's start with Silver Sand. So for silver sand, our focus in 2026 first is to do socialization with the local communities and sign agreements with them. Hopefully, we can get that achieved in the first half of 2026. Then immediately after we achieve that, we will start the technical aspects of the permitting work. We'll restart the EIA process. We're going to start doing environmental and social economic baseline studies. We're doing other technical works, as I'm saying, geotechnical, hydrogeological studies at the same time. We'll start our feasibility studies. So that's about it for silver sand. So for Carangas, obviously, if we get the community agreement reached in 2025, then we start the year with pushing on the exploration license to mining license conversion. And we like to get it done within the 3 to 6 months period. And again, immediately after we achieve that, we move on to the environmental license process. In the same way as silver sand, we do gap analysis, gap technical works to bridge from PEA directly to FS study. We're going to skip PFS for Carangas. We're going directly from PEA to feasibility study for Carangas. And at the same time, there will be the 33,000 meter infill drilling program going on in Carangas throughout 2026. Likely kick off in the very beginning of the second quarter, just after the raining season, because the first quarter here in Bolivia is typically a raining season, so we want to avoid that.
Fantastic. So with that, where do you envision your Pacific Metals in 3 years?
Yeah, I envision that we're constructing 2 world-class open pit both silver and gold projects in a revived Bolivia in a new country. That's my vision.